Ever wonder how ancient people groups understood their own origins? How they saw their connections to others?
Yeah, it's a really basic human question, isn't it? Where do we come from? How do we all fit together?
Exactly. And today on the deep dive, we're looking at, well, a really old attempt to answer exactly that.
We are. We're digging into something often called the Table of Nations. It's this text from the source material you provided.
Right.
And look, it's crucial to get this up front. This isn't like a modern scientific paper or anything.
No, definitely
It's
not.
more like a foundational story, a worldview from one specific ancient culture. It lays out how they saw humanity spreading out after a big flood event mentioned in their texts.
It's like their origin story, but
Hmm.
mapped out, told through family trees and geography.
Precisely. It's a framework, really.
Yeah.
The core idea is that everyone they knew about, all the different peoples, they trace them back to Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
So this table, it's kind of like an ancient map, linking descendants to places, maybe even hinting at where different languages came from.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our goal today really is to unpack the structure of this table of nations, see what it tells us, and just appreciate it as, well, a window into how people thought way back when.
Okay, let's jump in. Where does this account actually start?
So the text begins with the descendants of Japheth. It lists seven sons straight off: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras.
7 sons. Okay, that's quite a starting point for a family tree.
It is, and then it goes a bit deeper for some of them. Like Gomer, he's listed as having three sons:
Oh, yeah. Who are they?
Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah.
Okay.
And then Javan, another of Japheth's sons, he gets four listed: Elisha, Tarshish, the Kittites, and the Rodanites.
Ketchites and Rhodanites.
Yeah, and here's something really interesting. Right after Javan's sons, the text says these descendants, they spread out as maritime peoples.
Maritime peoples.
Yeah. Into their own territories, it says, by clans and nations. And this is key, each with its own language.
Huh. Maritime peoples. That detail, it really jumps out, doesn't it? What do you think that implies about how the writers saw these groups?
Well, that's a great question. It probably reflects, their geography and how they knew these people, maybe through sea trade
Yeah.
or coastal contact.
So perhaps groups they encountered via ships rather than over land.
Could be. It suggests maybe a different kind of connection, perhaps more mobile, linked by water. It contrasts a bit with some descriptions we'll see later. And mentioning distinct languages so early on for this branch, it shows an awareness of, well, linguistic diversity right from the start.
Interesting. Okay, so after Japheth, where does the table go next?
It moves on to the sons of Ham. Four are listed: Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan.
Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Got it. And this section seems, I don't know, a bit more detailed, especially Cush.
It does, yeah. Cush is listed with five sons: Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka. And then it goes another generation down with Rama, listing his two sons, Sheba and Didan. So you see that pattern, that genealogical mapping continuing.
Yeah, definitely. But then wait, there's Nimrod. He's mentioned here too, also as the son of Cush. But he gets a whole description.
Yeah, yes. Nimrod, he definitely stands out. He's called a mighty warrior on the earth.
And a mighty hunter before the Lord. There's even that saying, right? Like Nimrod, a mighty hunter.
Exactly. It does make you wonder why he gets this special treatment, this sort of mini narrative within the list.
Yeah, why him specifically?
Good question. It probably suggests he was, well, a major figure in their understanding of the past, maybe representing a certain kind of kingship or power.
So it lists his cities too, right?
It does. It names the first centers of his kingdom in Shinar, places like Babylon, Uruk, Akkad, and Calneh.
Wow, okay. So recognizable places.
Very much so. And then it adds his building projects in Assyria: Nineveh, Rehoboth-ir, Calah, and Rezin. It even describes Rezin as the great city between Nineveh and Calah.
So it's grounding this figure, Nimrod, in like actual geography they knew.
Precisely. It anchors these ancestral lines in a tangible world. It adds a layer of, reality to the narrative for the original audience.
Okay. What about the others from Ham's line? Egypt is next, right?
Yes, Egypt. And again, quite a list of descendants attributed to him: the Ludites, Anamites, Lehabites, Naphtalites, Pathrusites, Casluhites. And here's a really interesting bit. The Casluhites are noted as the origin of the Philistines.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's a direct link to a group very well known later on.
Exactly. And it also mentions the calf rites alongside them. So it's drawing these connections, linking ancestral groups to contemporary peoples as they understood them.
It really shows how they were trying to make sense of the different groups around them, where they all came from.
That's the core function, it seems. Explaining the now by referencing this shared then.
Okay, so who's left under Ham? Canaan.
Canaan, yes. Yeah. And he gets quite the list of sons, 11 in total. Sidon is named as his firstborn. 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you get names like the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites. It goes on. The Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zimmerites, Hamathites.
That's a lot of groups tied to Canaan. Does that suggest something about maybe the importance or the visibility of that region to the writers?
That's a very sharp point. It can reflect the complexity of the populations in the region they identified as Canaan, or perhaps the significance of those interactions.
And does it give geography for Canaan too?
It does. It talks about the Canaanite clan scattering and then sort of maps out the territory from Sidon down toward Gerar, as far as Gaza,
Okay.
and then swinging inland towards Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboim, all the way to Lasha. So, yes, specific geographical boundaries are laid out.
It really paints a picture of where these groups linked to Ham were thought to live.
Definitely. And just like with Japheth, this section on Ham wraps up with a summary, listing his descendants by their clans, languages, territories, and nations.
So that structure, clans, languages, territories, nations, keeps repeating.
Yes, it's a consistent framework. It really highlights the organizing principle behind the whole text. It's systematic.
Right. Okay, so we've covered Japheth and Ham. That leaves Shem.
Correct. Shem is the last of the three sons covered, and the text introduces him with a specific identifier, the ancestor of all the sons of Eber.
Eber. Okay. And it mentions his relationship to Japheth.
It does. It calls Shem Japheth's older brother, according to this account anyway, which, sets up a kind of birth order.
Okay, so who are Shem's sons? 5
are listed: Elam, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram.
Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, Aram.
Got it. Does it branch out further?
Yes, similar pattern. Aram, for instance, is listed with 4 sons: Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech.
Okay.
And the line from Arphaxad gets special attention. It's traced down to Shelah and then to Eber.
Ah, Eber, the one mentioned in Shem's introduction.
Exactly. It explicitly makes that link. And then Eber himself has 2 sons named Peleg and Joktan.
Peleg and Joktan. And isn't there something about Peleg's name? Yes. This is real interesting. The text actually explains his name. It says he was named Peleg because, and I quote, "In his time the earth was divided."
Divided. Wow. So the name itself is like a little historical note embedded right there.
It seems so. It's one of the few places the text offers us that kind of etymological explanation. It hints at maybe another layer of history or event they associated with that time.
Fascinating. Okay, and the other son was Joktan.
Joktan, yes, and he has a lot of sons listed. 13, actually.
13.
Yeah. Almodadad, Shelef, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Dikla, Obal, Abimael, Sheba.
Okay, a long list.
Orphir, Havilah, and Jobab. It's quite extensive.
And do we get a location for Joktan's descendants?
We do, though it's maybe a little less precise than the Canaanite borders. It says their territory stretched from Mesha towards Sephir in the eastern hill country.
Eastern hill country. Okay, so still giving a geographical sense.
Yes, still placing them on the map, so to speak. And, predictably, the Shem section also concludes with that same summary formula: descendants by clans, languages, territories, and nations.
Maintaining that structure right to the end of the listings, it really hammers home the systematic approach.
It really does. And then right at the very end, there's the final summary statement for the whole chapter.
What does that say?
It basically pulls it all together. It states something like, "These are the clans of Noah's sons, according to their lines of descent within their nations. And from these, the nations spread out over the earth after the flood."
Ah, okay, so it circles right back to the beginning, the flood, the sons, and the spreading out of nations.
Exactly. It provides the capstone for the whole narrative, the big picture. Dispersal, diversification, all stemming from this single family.
So stepping back then, this table of nations, it's really, it's an ancient culture's attempt to organize their known world, right?
Absolutely. It's their way of categorizing people, explaining origins, linking ancestry to geography, and accounting for the diversity they saw around them. It's a kind of conceptual map.
And for us, for you listening, it's just a remarkable glimpse into that mindset.
It really is. I mean, even though it's ancient, it shows this fundamental human drive to understand, us and them and how we all got here. These themes, they still echo. It gives you this unique insight into how they thought about connection, difference, and even the whole idea of what a nation was back then.
Yeah, it's powerful in that way. Of course, we need to remember this is one cultural perspective. It's not, modern history or science.
Definitely not. That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
But as a window into their understanding, incredibly valuable.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with. Considering this ancient world map, this table of nations, what does it really tell us about how those people saw the world, how they understood being connected or different, and maybe how those old ways of thinking about nations still ripple outwards today?
Hmm, that's a great question to ponder. How do these foundational stories shape our understanding, even now? Something to think about.